This gentleman, police officer over here, just reminded us we're in a lockdown. I reminded him these lockdowns are illegal and we will not obey these lockdowns. So guys, we've got an open letter addressed to the Premier of Queensland, Anastasia, palashay. That's how you pronounce it. Regarding COVID-19 pandemic and associated restrictions. I write in representation of the People's Revolution, the TPR community, to raise concerns about the state of current affairs in Queensland. Over the past 12 months, we've been thrown into lockdown at the whim of the government, and we hold grave concerns for the economic and mental health of Queenslanders, along with the validity of certain control measures. I personally hear story after story of people who are concerned about the security of their job and the crashing economy, the skyrocketing suicide rate as a direct result of lockdowns are much higher than the supposed death toll of COVID-19 itself. The rise, and so, just bring that speaker out here. The rise in mental health conditions and drug abuse, the low accuracy of PCR testing and asymptomatic cases being used to determine the control measures, the safety of the vaccines and the fact that do not prevent you from contracting or transmitting the virus, whether they and their children will be ostracised from society, discriminated against or unable to partake in certain activities such as work, school, playing sport, travelling, shopping, and entering restaurants, cinemas, sporting venues and concerts without proof of vaccination. Their anxiety to book essential medical treatment through fear of being forced to submit to invasive medical procedures and tests, and reluctance to book any interstate travel through fear of not being able to come back home without being forced to quarantine or submit to invasive medical procedures and tests. There can be no doubt that the measures taken to control COVID-19 in Australia have been some of the most restrictive and oppressive in the world. The negative impacts of these policies must be considered. Indeed, it is like drawing the conclusion that because people die in car crashes, we should ban everyone from driving because it is unsafe. The mere suggestion is absurd, as is requiring healthy people to isolate, wear masks and social distance, as is requiring healthy people to isolate, wear masks and social distance. It doesn't make sense. Think about it. Quarantine is a restriction on the movement of people, animals or goods, which is intended to prevent the spread of disease or pests. It makes zero sense to be isolating healthy people to stop the spread of a virus which they do not have. Think about this, guys, and think about what team you're on. You're going to have to make some hard decisions soon. And we are the people, we're on your team. We've all got families, we're all in this together. This is about oppression and control, nothing else. Think about it, guys. As such, I ask to meet with you to discuss the concerns of the community and seek your justification for these restrictive and oppressive measures, which have proven to be far more devastating than COVID-19 itself. We, the people, whose concerns are represented herein by TPR, request a full inquiry into the management of COVID-19 and respectfully request that you address the below queries within 14 days of the date of this letter. Heading 1 is the virus. Question 1. What are the origins of SARS-CoV-2? In order to prepare for any future outbreaks, the people of the world must have details of how and why this pandemic started. 2. Please provide proof that SARS-CoV-2 exists and that the virus has been isolated and purified, confirming its existence. I have attached 202 pages of Freedom of Information requests. 202 pages of Freedom of Information requests. 60 responses from 47 institutions, including government departments such as the Australian Department of Health and prestigious universities in 10 countries, including Australia, New Zealand, England, Canada, Germany, and America. Not one FOI request has had a response that would suggest SARS-CoV-2 exists. They do not have this data on them.
Not good enough.
Why is every single one of these establishments, including the Department of Health in Australia, unable to provide proof of the existence of this virus?
It's a scam.
Why is it orange? Who owns it?
Heading 2, the pandemic. Question 1. The basis for classifying COVID-19 as a pandemic with the cases and death numbers, given the questionable accuracy of the PCR test being used for diagnosis, and the fact that the deceased do not have to be tested for the cause of death to be listed on the death certificate as COVID-19. Let me repeat that part.
Yes.
The fact that the deceased did not have to be tested for the cause of death to be listed on the death certificate as COVID-19. What plans does the government have to review case and death numbers in Australia? Why, with such low fatality rates, lower than that of the seasonal flu, are we still in a state of emergency? And why is the state of emergency being continuously extended against the rules and guidelines set out by our own people? The timing of this lockdown, just two days before the end of Queensland's public health emergency, was set to expire the 31st of March 2021, raises concerns to the legitimacy of the lockdown. Can you explain if the new cases which have triggered the lockdown were showing signs of illness, or if they were simply asymptomatic like the majority of cases? Heading 3, lockdowns and masks. We would like full disclosure of the scientific justification for isolation of healthy people, social distancing and mask wearing, as well as what scientific evidence you have of asymptomatic spread. A surgical mask is designed for a surgeon to wear while operating, so as not... Hey, listen, this one goes. A surgical mask is designed for a surgeon to wear while operating, so as to not allow saliva to enter the surgical field. These masks that you're wearing, boys, are not designed to stop the spread of a virus, and many studies provide evidence that not only are masks utterly useless at preventing the spread of the virus, but they are in fact a hazard. Hazards to one's health. Please provide the scientific basis on which you are basing mask mandates. That should interest you guys. You're breathing in microfiber, strange to your throat, it's unhealthy.
Bacterial ammonia.
Don't just be obedient, take a feel obedience. You guys hold a prestigious place in our society. We look up to you guys, protectors of society. Start acting like it and join us. Quarantine is a restriction on the movement of people, animals or goods, which is intended to prevent the spread of disease or pests. It makes zero sense to be isolating healthy people to stop the spread of a virus which they do not have. Please provide us with scientific proof that isolation of healthy people can benefit the health of community. Has there been any analysis of mental health, domestic violence, drug abuse and suicide during 2020 in comparison to previous years? And if so, is the sharp rise in all four of these issues considered justified as just collateral damage?
They don't care.
Because in all of these figures myself, suicide has surpassed the apparent death toll of COVID-19 by many, many times. So why are we killing our own people over something that's, if it exists, as mild as the flu? Has there been any analysis, I've already said that, didn't I? Has the impact of lockdowns on small business been considered, and are there plans to compensate suffering and closed businesses?
I don't care.
The smash in our economy. The next heading is treatments. Hydroxychloroquine was previously unrestricted in Australia. Highly qualified medical doctors from around the world have issued sworn affidavits which claim extremely high rates of success in both preventing and treated COVID-19 with hydroxychloroquine. This is backed by hundreds of scientific studies. Why has this drug, which is considered safe and effective by the medical community, been banned for treatment of COVID-19 patients and restricted after the beginning of the pandemic?
Get up the numbers.
Fraud.
Why has ivermectin not been approved for treating COVID-19 patients? This drug has been successfully used around the world in the treatment of COVID-19 patients, and Dr. Tess Laurie, Director, Evidence-Based Medicine Consultancy, who makes recommendations to the United States National Health Services and the World Health Organization itself, has put forward recommendations to the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, is it Don Johnson himself, to urgently approve the use of ivermectin in the treatment of COVID-19 patients. Again, there are many scientific studies to back the safety and efficacy of ivermectin. Why has the National COVID-19 Clinical Evidence Task Force cherry-picked which studies to review, seemingly to dismiss the significant benefits of the drugs treating COVID-19? Now the next heading, guys, is vaccines. Given the fast-tracked and largely untested COVID-19 vaccine, which is actually experimental mRNA gene therapy injection, has not been proven to stop people contracting or transmitting the virus, and the unknowns around the long-term risk associated with the vaccine. How has the government assessed the true risks and benefits of these COVID-19 vaccines? Seeing at least 15 countries suspend the AstraZeneca vaccine for potential safety risks. Seeing at least 15 countries around the world have already suspended the AstraZeneca vaccine for potential safety risks and deaths. Why has Australia allowed this largely untested vaccine to be continued to be used on our people? Should it not be suspended until further studies can be completed to ensure its safety?
Yes.
Why have the vaccines been given provisional approval when it has not been confirmed that they will not cause autoimmune disease or antibody-dependent enhancement, as noted in the TGA's provisional approvals? What pathways will be available to those injured by the vaccines to be compensated for damages?
None.
Why?
Why have COVID-19 vaccine manufacturers been given exemption from liability?
They know what they're doing.
If you purchase a brand new vehicle, drive it 500 metres and it blows up and kills you, the vehicle manufacturer will be liable. If you receive the COVID-19 injection and it kills you, which has already been the case in many, many times, the vaccine manufacturer is not liable. Why is this? Is this because this injection is unavoidably unsafe?
Yes.
What measures will be put in place to ensure that the people who do not want the vaccines, either now or in the future, are not discriminated against, either by government agencies or private companies? Will the media be encouraged to report on deaths and injuries from the vaccines as they have been encouraged to report on cases of deaths from COVID-19? If reporting of vaccine damage is to be suppressed, as it has been in the past, please advise why. I welcome a meeting with you to further discuss these issues. For too long, the government has sat separately from the people and has refused to provide open and honest answers to our concerns. I appreciate that we are in a challenging and unique time in history and hope that we can work together to discuss and address the concerns of our community.
Well said.
I look forward to hearing your response to these concerns raised by the community. Should you wish to arrange a convenient time to meet in person, please contact me. That's it for the letter. Let's see if we can get it delivered.